Welcome to the Sound of Movement podcast. Today we're going to be talking about injury identity, what it is and why it is so critical for you to lose it. This is something that I've been able to achieve, and it's been one of the cornerstones in my ability to bounce back from some pretty serious injuries. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's time to rock. If you're new to the tribe, Rich is behind the mix, and my name is Rad Burmeister. We are Unity Gym, experts at turning driven people into athletes. This episode is brought to you by the Unified Movement System, the only online program effectively balancing strength, flexibility, and fitness so you can unleash your inner athlete. You can get daily coaching by us, plus our epic Foundations Prep program and revolutionary structural balance blueprint that teaches you to create your ideal program and optimize your performance. As a valued customer, you can use the link in the description to get your first month free. Check it out. It's one of the only programs you'll find that balances strength, flexibility, and fitness, teaches you calisthenics, weightlifting, all the good stuff. Now, I also want to announce that today we're launching an epic 72-hour flash sale for our injury rehab programs. This is your chance to get our amazing injury rehab programs that have helped thousands of people around the world overcome some really nasty injuries, and you can get them at a really big discount. So click the link in the description of this video, or even better, go over to the UMS Movement Mastermind on Facebook. Click the link there, that way you'll be notified when we launch these flash sales. Now, before we get started on today's show, warm welcome if you're listening on the live stream in the UMS Movement Mastermind Facebook group. Leave a comment and we'll send you some love. Remember that anyone can join that group and interact. And lastly, a shout out to our YouTube athletes catching the replay. Hit the like button to support the channel and subscribe if you like what you see. How are you today, Richie?
Good, Rad. Thank you. I think today's topic's pretty important for all those people who have got injuries or trying to avoid an injury, maybe had an injury in the past but have overcome it.
It's been a huge thing for me. I've had a lot of injuries in my time. When I was a kid I had a bunch of injuries, but the first really bad one was my lower back. In my late teens, there was a period where I had such bad back pain that I think I was about 17 or 18, I was walking around on a walking stick for several weeks. My back pain was so bad. And I just had this fierce determination to get over it. And back then I was going to see chiropractors and masseuses and doing everything I could. And I just worked my butt off to try and get better. Really didn't know what I was doing, but at least because I was active, now that I know back then, because I was at least active and I was determined to overcome it, I found a way, you know. There's something in that Jurassic Park saying, isn't there? Life finds a way. And then later, the next really bad injury that I have had was when I was 21 and I was doing acrobatics and I tore my Liz Frank ligament in my foot. I had to get surgery. And I was told that I'd never be able to do acrobatics or martial arts or any of the fun stuff that I enjoyed doing again. And that was where I really developed this persona and mentality that I wasn't an injured person, because I just remember thinking at 21, being told by surgeons that they were basically trying to tell me, like, you know, your days are done. Like, you're now this injured person and you have to accept that. And I remember just thinking, no way, I'm not going to do that. And what we mean by the injury identity is, unfortunately for some people, they go the other way. Yeah. And they become the injured person. And it's almost like it's the way some people introduce themselves. Like we've been at workshops with notable people. I remember when Yanni and I did the workshop with Ian King, and somebody introduced themselves and said, they described their injuries straight away, and Ian just looked at them and said, well, that's a really interesting way to frame yourself, isn't it? It's to tell me all about everything that's wrong with you. Yeah. Is that how you see yourself, is it? And the person was really taken aback. They were like, what do you mean? I was just telling you about my injuries. And he goes, yeah, that's a really interesting way to introduce yourself, to tell me about your injuries. And that was, that was an eye-opener for me. And we've had those people at the gym, haven't we? We've had people at the gym where we're really, really, really early on in their time, like pretty much their first session, you know everything about all their injuries. Yeah. And as a trainer, when you've dealt with it enough, you can see it from a mile away. When someone starts describing all of their injuries to you, you just know what kind
injuries can be as big of a injury to the psychology or the head than to the body, really. I mean, sometimes it even lasts longer psychologically than it does physically. And I guess I like this topic so much because it also branches off into that realm of pain science, you know. These injuries don't just affect our tendons and muscles and what's physically going on with us, but, you know, psychologically we sort of almost limit ourselves by holding on to this idea that we're always going to be this person with this issue, you know, and we can never do this, or, you know, it's very interesting.
It is, man, and it's and that is a hard thing to break free from, isn't it? Like the you know, when you hear Phil talk about pain science, which I'd never even delved into before we used to do these podcasts with Phil and Nilesh, but when Phil talks about it, it is fascinating to hear him describe the way that, like, you know, pain is a perception to something that's going on. It's not what's actually going on. It's the way that the brain interprets it and gives you feedback so that you can, you know, and we've learned on some of these shows the way that you can actually learn to dull down the sensation of pain. And that's a funny thing, because I actually taught myself how to do that, not on a mystical level, but I remember when I was younger and I was getting massages and they were very painful, and I remember just, I don't know what it was. I think it was because I watched so many martial arts movies. And I think when you watch the Kung Fu movies, at least, a lot of the Kung Fu movies from the 70s and 80s and even in the 90s, but definitely the earlier Jackie Chan ones, a big part of them was him training. Like, he showed himself training in the videos. And so you got to see how somebody at a very elite level trains and the kind of things they put themselves through. And a big part of that is, you know, with martial arts, it's the way that, you know, there's this image of these Zen masters that are experiencing a lot of pain, but they're not showing it on their face, you know? And I think because I got subjected to that at a young age, it changed something in my mind. And I remember I'd be on the massage table and I'd be sitting there experiencing quite a bit of discomfort, and the masseuse was saying, you know, are you okay with this? And I'd say, yeah, it's fine, because I knew that it was doing good for me. And I learned to carry that forward. Like, I've had a problem with an ingrown toenail on my left foot, where I've actually had to get surgery on it. When you say surgery, it's going to a doctor and they put a local anesthetic on you and cut the nail off, but it is still a surgical procedure and very painful and very uncomfortable. And whenever I do that, I have to really go inward and just remind myself that I can deal with this thing, and no matter what I'm feeling, it is just a sensation that I can get through, and I know that it's getting me to where I want to go. So I lay there on the table and I close my eyes and I say to the doctor, I'm going to be quite quiet while you do this, so just go ahead and do what you need to do, but I'm just going to lay here with my eyes closed if that's okay. And they say, yeah, that's fine. And then at the end of it, the doctor says to me, he says, man, I've done about 400 of these things and I've never seen anybody deal with it as well as you do. So there is definitely this way of dealing with pain that some people can deal with and some people can't. Now, if I bring it back to the injury identity thing, you know, the way Phil's spoken about pain science, like, pain serves a purpose. It tells you that there's something going on and that you need to address something, right? Or avoid something, or, I mean, you know, like if you've broken your arm and you go,
it's very important.
Yeah, it's important. But there comes a point where the injury identity can kick in, and you can associate, you can be thinking to yourself, you know, I've got this pain here, I've got this sensation, when the injury itself is actually healed. That was fascinating for me when he explained that, when he talked about how, like, with a muscle tear, for example, like with my shoulder, for example, when I'd done tears in the muscles in my shoulder, and I'm talking about the pain I'm feeling 3 months later, and he was like, well, you know, the injury is pretty much gone now, like the tissues have repaired, so what you've got to look deeper into what it is that you're feeling. And yeah, that was fascinating for me, and yeah, something that I think if more people could learn about, maybe more people could have a more active lifestyle. Yeah,
I think it's quite interesting delving into that area of science because it's still so new to us. You know, we still have to do so much more research on it and everything. And it's amazing what we're finding with how the morphology of an injury can be so different to the pain or the level of discomfort that you're feeling. And it really comes down to that you know, your mind, your head's telling you something that really doesn't exist. It's amazing what the head can convince you of doing and making reality.
Yeah. I think it was Henry Ford that said, whether you think you're right or whether you think you're wrong, either way, you're right.
Yep.
No, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't,
Yep.
either way, you're right.
Yep.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And, if we bring it back to this injury identity thing, I think what's quite challenging about this message is that the people that need to hear this the most are often the people that get really challenged by it and really put off by it, because people that have what we refer to as an injury identity, which, going back, it's somebody that just defines themselves as an injured person.
Yep.
They really believe that that's who they am. For whatever reason, it's not something that happens overnight. It's something that happens from a long period of time, from a successive period of feeling like they're injured, from going to see a bunch of specialist doctors, whatever, and being told that they're injured. And it's quite challenging when somebody challenges you on that. And I've seen it in people's faces, like these stories of these people in these workshops I'm talking about, where they really look surprised. They're like, well, what do you mean? Like, that's who I am. I've got these injuries, it's I'm just telling you what I've got. And what we're trying to get across in today's show is that really one of the first steps to healing your injuries or getting back to a place of being injury free is to understand that you must rid yourself of the injury identity. You must first see yourself as a capable person, not an injured person.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is reintroducing exercise and training your head in a way, or mind in a way, that is going to serve you better to rehabilitate that injury, rather than having a mindset that is too focused on the injury. I think some people, when they've had an injury, they get really focused on this pain, and whenever they're training and exercising, they almost manifest that pain to become worse, or to stick around for too long because it's something that they're just expecting. I know from personal experience, it's happened to me as well. When you're so fixated on this pain at the end range of a squat, it might be there or it might not. It might just be your head sort of... And it is a tricky area of diagnosing this, because you're, at the end of the day, you're wondering, well, am I really feeling this? Or am I just sort of making it happen? Am I just manifesting this pain?
And the only way that you really get out of that is through moving, exercising, and showing yourself that you can do it. Like I've spoken to a couple of people here that have chronic back pain, lower back pain. It's such a common thing, that we deal with at Unity Gym, and I'm somebody that suffers with it myself. And it's funny because the only times that it ever gets bad is when I don't exercise. So the only times that I'll ever really feel back pain is if I drink or take drugs, like anything that would cause inflammation, or eat a bad meal. I'll wake up the next day, feeling uncomfortable and stiff and tight. But the other times is if I don't exercise for a prolonged period of time, and it only needs to be because I move daily. I do something every day, even on a day where I don't do any exercise. I'll still do at least 18 minutes of stretching or so, like with one of our 18-minute stretching routines. And that's my day of doing nothing. But whenever I don't do that, whenever I don't do anything it takes about 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days I start feeling discomfort in my back. And if I go a week or two, I'm at the level where I would need painkillers. But then I'll do one workout, one movement session, and everything starts to feel better again. And that's what it's what our injury rehab programs are designed to do. They're designed to be that ground level for people that are really suffering with these injuries and are really feeling like, no matter what I do, I can feel this pain and I can't seem to get it better. And that's what they did for me, because when I tore my meniscus, I had a knee injury, when I had forearm tendinopathy, when I did slap tears in my shoulders. All of these injuries, there was a period of time where I did what everybody else does, which was I thought, okay, I need to rest. I need to stop moving and just rest. And it was having Phil here, an amazing physiotherapist, talking to me all the time and talking through it and explaining to me what's actually happening and getting me to understand that that's actually the worst thing you can do. It's motion is lotion for so many reasons. When you exercise, you stimulate blood flow, you stimulate the healing response in the body, you stimulate strength in your muscles rather than going the opposite direction in all of it. And that is critical for the healing process. And so the idea of these injury rehab programs were because this is how we created them. I was working with Phil and I said, okay, well, what can I do with my shoulders? How do I can't do, like when I do this, I experience pain. And he'd say, okay, well, what you want to do is X, Y, and Z. And it was some basic stuff that I was doing. And it was the same with, I was working with a couple of physio. I worked with Leroy as well. But they gave me a strategy of, okay, you want to, like, for example, with the shoulders, it was about the first step was to reteach the shoulder stabilizers to do their job and maintain good scapular positioning through movement to keep the humerus in the joint the way it's meant to be and stop this glide that we've spoken about before that causes pain. And the idea is that by starting at that point, you're doing something that doesn't cause you more pain, that reteaches the body that movement is okay, and that allows you to have that small win and go, oh, hang on a minute, maybe I'm not as injured as I thought I was. Maybe I am more capable, and it allows you to slowly break free from that injury identity, which is just critical.
Yeah, there's also a large population of people that don't necessarily go through an injury, but they see something on, say, the internet, or they've been told something about themselves from the doctor or the physio or something, and then they get really caught up in that sort of issue that they have, and then they make their full focus on correcting this issue. So they go into all these elaborate different exercises. They search the internet for gurus that can help them fix this and that. And sometimes the answer is just simple strengthening the body in the basic ways, horizontal push-pull, squat, bend, hip bend. And it tends to correct a lot of these issues. And what I mean by these issues, just to give you a few examples, like scapular winging, twisted ribs, one leg being longer than the other. Like, yeah, they all can have a little bit to do with how you perform and how you feel, but some people just go overboard with just letting these things limit them and what they do. Yeah, and that's part of, I guess, the injury identity, like becoming this issue that you can see in your body and just letting it, not serve you.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've been amazed at with the amount of shows that we've now done with some really amazing physios, and I understand the rehab process so much more now, and then having rehabbed my own injuries and which led to creating these programs. The basic strategy for the majority of injuries that I see that the guys get them to do is perform a movement in a more optimal way, in a way that doesn't exacerbate the injury, that doesn't make things work. Strengthen your available range, meaning if it hurts you to go here, just strengthen the area that it doesn't hurt you. And then over time, that available range increases because you become stronger in, the available range. And then, you do that over and over again, and eventually you get back to where you want to be.
Yep.
Whereas what most people do, and this is certainly what I did, was, I can't do that. I can't do the extremes of what I used to be able to do, so I'll do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's where these injury rehab programs come in really nicely. Now, of course, if you've got anything major, you do want to go and see a specialist.
There are exceptions, yeah.
Yeah, of course. You need to get the right advice. But I mean, yeah, these programs have been designed with the seal of approval from some really good physios. And if you're suffering, if you're wanting to get out of that injury identity, if you're wanting to get back to where you're doing, then these are a really great place to start. And they're going to bridge that gap from that place of feeling like you can't do anything and you're helpless to getting back to the things that you want to do.
Yep.
So highly recommend it, guys. If you haven't already, jump on over to the UMS Movement Mastermind, where you get notified about these flash sales, and grab any of our injury rehab programs, and you can grab all 5 of them. There's the hip and lower back injury rehab program. There's the knee rehab program. There's the forearm and elbow rehab program, which is for golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, tendinopathy in the forearm. And there's the shoulder rehab program, and there's also the anterior pelvic tilt rehab program. And you can grab all of them as a bundle for a really good price. So go on over, check it out, and we will see you next week on Monday. We're going to go over and join our UMS online coaching group now for their daily live coaching call. If you're not already a part of that group, grab a free trial, a free 1-month trial of the full UMS online coaching program. There's a link in the description of this video or this podcast, wherever you are consuming the content. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you in that tribe soon. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, that's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.